Now, looking at these two, I don't want to put too much on them as freshmen, but they're almost the JTT Sawyer pair for the linebackers for the 22 classes, a couple 5 stars at the top of the lineup with CJ Hicks and Sonny Styles. And then, of course, we've got Steele Chambers. It was very admirable what he did in regards to being able to make a offense to defense switch and become a impact player on the defensive side. And then you got Tommy Eichenberg, who has turned himself into a really productive player and had like 65 tackles last year. But linebacker's been a solid position for this team. They've moved guys off to the NFL, of course, from that 2020 team in particular, but maybe not, again, up to the standard that Ohio State fans would like.
Certainly not. I think Buckeye fans still have nightmares of Tough Borland chasing, I think it was Devontae Smith in the national championship game. And not that Tough Borland should have been on one of those receivers, but it just highlights where Ohio State's linebacker play has been and kind of how it was coached and things like that. So, as I mentioned, Jim Knowles is running that position room. That's, while he's not labeled the linebackers coach, he is their linebackers coach. And I think that having the defensive coordinator in that room certainly grabs your attention at the very least. I think you've seen the development of, you mentioned two of those guys, Tommy Eichenberg and Steele Chambers. Those are the guys that are expected to start at the two linebacker positions in Jim Knowles' defense. They really like what Tommy Eichenberg has done this offseason. He's just a football guy. I've said it a few times in different interviews I've done. He doesn't want to do interviews. He doesn't want to do all this other stuff. He wants to put his face in the playbook and learn how to get better. And I think that you saw that some throughout last year, but I think you'll see it much more now that he's had a full offseason as being the guy. Same with Steele Chambers. He had a full offseason of being a linebacker again after, as you mentioned, moving from running back and kind of changing up his approach at Ohio State. Productive last year and just kind of reading and reacting. And now I think he has a better understanding of college football defense and what he's supposed to do in this defense. And then there's definitely some depth behind him. You mentioned CJ Hicks, the 5-star freshman. Sonny Styles right now is running with the safeties, though it would not surprise me if at some point he does move to linebacker. Maybe not even this year, but at some point in his career. But just across the depth chart, Taraja Mitchell, he's back for his 5th year. Paliie Yote, also a 5th year, transferred from USC before last season. Reed Carrico, Cody Simon, Gabe Powers, another talented freshman. So there's certainly depth in this linebacker room. Not all of it has as much experience as some of those top guys, but I think I missed Diamante Chip Trainum, the transfer from Arizona State, who's also moving from running back, but was recruited by Ohio State as a linebacker a few classes ago. It'll be very interesting to see how they're used, especially when Ohio State plays teams like Wisconsin and Iowa, who line up in those more traditional power I formations. That's when you probably need 3 linebackers on the field. Who's the next guy up? We think maybe Reed Carrico, but Taraja Mitchell has mentioned that he's worked at that position. So they've got some options, and Jim Knowles will have to adjust based on the opponent throughout the year. But I like the depth that they've developed at linebacker, and I think, like most of this defense, these guys that are going to be playing now have experience, which was not the case a year ago when Ohio State had a lot of young guys, was substituting a lot to try and find the right guys on the field. This year, I think guys are more comfortable and kind of ready based on the experience they had last year.